The clock had just struck midnight when Lena finally peeled off her gloves after another grueling hospital shift. Her feet ached, her hair clung to her face, and the weight of the day sat heavy on her shoulders. She had spent the last 12 hours tending to strangers with patience and care, yet she carried no illusions about her own life. There was no luxury waiting for her, no one waiting at home. She lived simply, paycheck to paycheck, but she never complained. That night, as she stepped out into the cool air, her phone buzzed. It was her best friend, panicked and begging for a favor. She had set up a blind date weeks ago but couldn't make it. "Please, just go in my place," her friend pleaded. Lena laughed softly, almost incredulous. What man would want to sit across from someone in wrinkled scrubs, with dark circles under her eyes? She wasn't glamorous, wasn't polished, she wasn't what men dreamed about. But her heart was too kind to say no. After all, her friend had been there for her countless times. With a deep sigh, Lena agreed, even though all she longed for was her bed. She told herself it would be quick, just an awkward dinner, and then she'd slip away unnoticed. As she pulled her old jacket tighter around herself and hailed a cab, she had no idea that this small act of loyalty, choosing to put someone else first, was about to alter the course of her life forever. The restaurant shimmered with soft lights, polished glass, and the low hum of conversations, far from the world Lena knew. She felt out of place the moment she stepped inside, clutching her worn bag and tugging at the sleeves of her plain jacket. She spotted him instantly. Ethan, the man she was supposed to meet, sat at a corner table in a crisp suit, posture straight, eyes sharp. He looked every bit the successful man people whispered about, handsome, powerful, untouchable. For a second, Lena almost turned back. She wasn't supposed to be here. She wasn't the woman he was expecting. But Ethan's eyes lifted and landed on her, curiosity flickering. He stood politely, offering a handshake. Lena apologized awkwardly, admitting she wasn't dressed for such a place, her voice quiet but steady. Ethan was caught off guard. He had imagined someone glamorous, someone rehearsed. Instead, here was a woman with tired eyes and a genuine smile, speaking with honesty rather than pretense. Something about her felt disarmingly real. They sat, and silence hung between them for a beat, but Lena, used to soothing anxious patience, found herself asking simple questions, about his day, about the food he recommended. Slowly, Ethan's guarded expression softened. For the first time in years, he wasn't being measured for his title or his wealth. Across from him was someone who wasn't trying to impress, but simply to connect. And that, more than anything, was what held his attention. The dinner stretched longer than either expected. What began with polite conversation slowly turned into something deeper, something neither of them had planned. Ethan, usually guarded and measured with his words, found himself speaking more than he had in years. He told Lena about his daughter, about how he tried to balance late nights at the office with bedtime stories, about the guilt that haunted him when he couldn't be both father and mother. His voice wavered at times, revealing cracks in the image of control he carried everywhere else. Lena listened, truly listened, the way only someone used to comforting the vulnerable could. She didn't interrupt with advice or pity, instead, she offered small nods, warm glances, and quiet understanding. When he faltered, she gently reminded him that love, even imperfect love, was enough for a child. Her words, simple yet heartfelt, struck a chord Ethan hadn't realized he needed to hear. Then came the laughter. He shared clumsy jokes about his failed attempts at cooking, and Lena laughed. Not the polite kind, but full and genuine. It startled Ethan, in the best way. He had grown used to laughter sounding forced around him, a courtesy people gave to power. But this was real. As the plates cleared and time slipped unnoticed, Ethan realized something extraordinary. This woman, who was never supposed to be here, who came only out of kindness to a friend, had given him something he had been searching for in silence, a sense of being seen, not as a CEO, not as a widower, but simply as a man. A week later, just as Lena was finishing her shift at the hospital, her phone rang. Ethan's voice, usually composed, shook with worry. His daughter had fallen ill, nothing seemed to help, and fear was gripping him in a way no boardroom crisis ever could. Without hesitation, Lena rushed across the city, her exhaustion forgotten. When she arrived, she found a little girl curled up on the couch, cheeks flushed with fever, eyes glassy and frightened. Ethan hovered nearby, trying to stay calm but clearly unraveling. Lena knelt beside the child, her voice soft and steady, her hands gentle as she checked her temperature and whispered reassurances. The little girl clung to her instantly, comforted by the same kindness Lena had shown countless patients. Ethan watched, helpless at first, then awestruck. Here was a woman who had no obligation to them, no reason to be there, yet she had come running. She moved with patience and grace, cradling his daughter's head, humming softly until the girl drifted into a calmer sleep. For Ethan, it was like seeing a missing piece fall into place. He had built walls around his heart, convinced no one could truly share his burdens. But Lena, without promises or pretense, stepped into that role naturally, as though she had belonged there all along. In that quiet living room, watching the woman who came into his life by accident soothe the person he loved most, Ethan felt something he hadn't dared to in years: hope. The morning sun filtered through the curtains when Ethan finally found the courage to speak. His daughter still slept peacefully, her small hand resting in Lena's. For hours, Lena had stayed by her side, never once complaining, never once asking for anything in return. Ethan's chest tightened as he realized how rare that kind of devotion was in his world, a world of deals, demands, and people who always wanted something from him. Quietly, he sat across from Lena. His usual composure was gone, replaced by raw honesty. "I don't want the dinners, the perfect dates, or the masks people wear around me," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I just want this. I just want you." Lena looked at him, startled, her eyes shimmering. "Ethan, I never meant to. This wasn't even supposed to be my date," she whispered, almost laughing through her tears. He reached for her hand, firm yet tender. "Maybe it wasn't supposed to be," he said softly, "but it feels like it was meant to be." Just then, his daughter stirred awake, her little arms wrapping around Lena's neck in a sleepy hug. Lena froze, tears spilling freely as she felt the child's trust and love. In that moment, all three of them understood something unspoken: what began as a simple favor had turned into something sacred. Not a blind date, but the beginning of a family. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive with grand plans, it finds us in the quiet moments of compassion, and when it does, it never lets go.